I value previous older generational engines, drivetrains that are reliable, predictable. Acura as well as Lexus both do quite well in both of those departments, but things have been changing. Lexus has been going with smaller turbocharged engines, hybrids. They've had some recalls lately as well, but as well, unfortunately, Acura's had some recalls. There are in fact 3 major models though I would definitely buy in the Acura lineup.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
I've been reviewing cars for a long time, and I've driven all of these at different times and places, some of them leaving a longer impact for me. Every vehicle has, as they say, a butt for its seat, but for me, there's certain attributes. I can appreciate a vehicle that's easy to work on, reliable, long-lasting, and after 6 or 7 years when I want to sell it, I want to make sure I haven't lost my shirt. One of the first models I would select for sure in the Acura lineup is the MDX. Now, the MDX has been around a long time, and the MDX, when you compare it to its closest proximity over in Lexus land, would be the RX. They're clearly been very close competitors, but things have been changing. Lexus has dumped the V6. They've brought in turbocharged 4-cylinders, some hybrids, and ECVT transmissions. So all of them are quite often reliable, and the interiors of a lot of the Lexus products are certainly a step up. There's some major reasons why I would, in fact, buy the MDX over the Lexus RX. I like to tow little trailers around. I have a little lawnmower that I like to tow around, and I need a utility trailer. Sometimes even have a Sea-Doo, and I like to be able to tow small loads. Now, it's not replacing a diesel truck, but with 5,000 pounds towing capacity, the MDX tows, whereas the RX simply cannot. Another thing that you have to think about is the entire car market's going to turbocharged 4 and 3 cylinders and hybrids and EVs. And to be honest, I'm trying to grab on to what's left of previous old school technology. Call me fuddy-duddy, call me old-fashioned, call me whatever, don't call me late for dinner, but I'll be honest, that's where the MDX shines, because the MDX still carries, again, some will call it outdated, direct-injected 3.5-liter V6 engine, no turbos, very simple drivetrain, and you essentially get 280, 290 horsepower out of a naturally aspirated 3.5-liter V6. You also get that mated up to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Who can't go wrong with the torque converter auto? That's what a lot of these OEMs are getting rid of these days, and unfortunately, even in Lexus land, they're moving over to ECVTs. While those are durable, it's not quite the same as feeling those gear changes, right? So ultimately, for me, the Acura MDX provides a naturally aspirated V6 with a torque converter automatic, all-wheel drive technology. Most of the tech is there. Another major win that you get with the MDX, 3 rows. That's right. You can park a couple young ones at the back, maybe some adults, maybe coworkers that you don't really like all that much. Stuff them in the 3rd row. Ta-ta. Push them back there. But at the end of the day, there's more room. There's certainly a lot more seating capacity in the Acura product than there is over in the Lexus product. I mean, if your focus is more on gadgets and gadgets and the cleaner tech, certainly you go with the Lexus. But if functionality, durability, longevity, ease of maintenance and service, and engines and drivetrains that have been proven over the years, well, I mean, let's be honest. The Acura has it in spades, because the Acura, it's predictable. You can go back in history and find out the problems, and you can go on all kinds of forums and people are going to explain the issues they've had with the 3.5s and the issues they've had here. The problem is those 2.4 turbos over in the Lexus are still a little bit new, and they're putting them in everything from Tacomas to NX and just about everything. And it's not a bad engine, but remember, we've got to think about Lexus is really struggling right now with the 3.4-liter V6 that's blowing up bearings. So they're not quite out of the woods. And even though Acura has a selective group of vehicles that have seen some recalls related to bearing issues as well, neither of them are perfect. You just have to ask yourself, which one's perfect for me? Hands down, bar none. In 2026, when I'm looking down the barrel of these new technology and big screens and hybrids and CVTs, I don't want any of that crap. I want something simple, predictable, and that's what Acura, the MDX, is the SUV for me. Second Acura I would buy here in 2026, it's the RDX. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of SUVs, but it actually answers the questions for a lot of buyers that are looking for something that's smaller and sportier. Now, yes, Lexus has something very comparable, and I love the Lexus NX series. Specifically, the 450h Plus is a plug-in hybrid, gives good performance, essentially free-range driving on electric mode only, and a great punch. The NX is a little bit softer ride. It favors a little bit more of the cushy drivetrain, quieter, nicer, cleaner tech. I love that. That's why this is the Acura I would buy, is the RDX. It features a similar 10-speed automatic transmission, driving to potentially all 4 wheels, but as well, it's a smaller, spicier package than the big MDX. It gives you a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that cranks out a whopping 270, 280 horsepower, about 280 pound-feet of torque. Has all of these dynamics and special snow modes and all kinds of features, big screens, but it's not overloaded. It's not overdone. And if that's one thing that I can say about Acura, again, even in the RDX, it's a little bit older tech. Now, turbos and direct injection is still on the newer side, but they're still sticking with the torque converter autos. I mean, there have been some complaints about some of the sensors going offline or some of the detection systems not communicating with the computers, but that's few and far between. And that seems to be really one of the few issues that you're finding in some of these vehicles. The Acura RDX, when you drive it, it feels 10 times spicier than you're getting with the Lexus NX. And I love the NX. I love the NX for its versatility, its looks, its design, and let's be honest, its reliability. But the base model NX gives you a 2.4-liter turbo 4, whereas the base RDX gives you a 2-liter turbocharged 4. So we're splitting hairs. Horsepower numbers are very comparable, but really it's more about the driving dynamics. It brings all of that. It brings the fun drive, whereas the Lexus is a little bit subdued. I think at this point, they're very comparable, and they're definitely both worth a look. So if you're looking for something in that mid-size, compact, sporty style SUV in the luxury car segment, particularly that's coming out of Japan, I would take a strong look at the Acura. It's going to give you that nicer driving dynamic, whereas the Lexus is going to give you a smoother, quieter driving dynamic. Depreciation is going to be very, very similar. Plug-in hybrids, of course, on the Lexus side is going to hold value a little bit better. They just seem to be. The 450h Plus have been a vehicle that's been hard to get, very much like the Toyota RAV4 Prime. That one has been a very, very tough vehicle to get, especially during the shortage back in 21, 22. And even now, Toyota is still playing catch up with some of the hybrids. It still might take you months to get some of your newly ordered hybrid vehicles. If you want something turnkey, ready to go, fun, sporty, that's the Acura, the RDX. Definitely one I would buy in 2026. There's a third Acura, and one of the only three that I would buy in 2026 personally, because as you see, I prefer pulling my own gears. I mean, each and every day. CVT has never resonated with me. And as we say, life's too short to drive boring cars, right there. That's exactly the reason why. So a car that is available in a manual transmission is always going to make the radar for me. But we're talking about the Integra. Now, the Integra comes in a couple of different formats. Of course, you can get the base trim with the 1.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder engine. You get either with the CVT, which... gross. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. Now, those are those that can't necessarily drive manual. That's cool, I get it. But you know what, for the most part, it's just uninspiring. It's like driving a Honda Civic. Unfortunate part is you're paying a premium dollar to get into an Integra with a CVT and a 1.5. You might as well just go with the Civic and save yourself a few bucks. The vehicle I would choose, either the manual, because you can get a 6-speed, if you will, I don't know, 6-speed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, manual gearbox, made it up to that 1.5, or you can also get the upgraded, and this is absolutely the Type S, 100%. You get limited slip differential, 2-liter turbocharged engine, punches out 320 horsepower driven to the front wheels. It is an absolute torque steer monster, and 6-speed manual. You get the nicer rims, you get a little bit more aggressive graphics throughout the bodyworks, but it's that rowing your own gears. I'm sorry, it's worth every single penny. So if you're looking at buying a modern day car that's going to be fun, sprightly, but quite reliable, that's the vehicle. Now remember, we can't forget about that 1.5. It hasn't been perfect. There's been some troubles. They had the oil and fuel dilution problems that Acura and Honda have been dealing with for some time. And they say they've administered some of the fixes out of it. They've created some different oiling, different procedures on maintenance, and certain, apparently, as was said, something to do with a tune or a tweak and some kind of upgrade. The 1.5 with the direct injection, especially on cold engines, tends to want to push some of that fuel past the rings into the combustion chamber and no mix fuel with oil. Well, what do you think that does? It's breaking down that oil that's trying to lubricate your engine. There have been engine failures related to that. That's been apparently, in many cases, suggested to have more or less gone away with some of these new changes that Honda and Acura have implemented. If you're driving a 1.5, the best advice I can say is warm it up carefully, drive it easily until it's fully warmed, and then if you want to drive it, give her. You've got to gingerly take care of it. You've got to make sure you do your oil services far in advance and look after the car. That's why also another reason I would step into the 2-liter with over 300 ponies and a 6-speed manual. At the end of the day, right there, right, folks? Life's too short to drive boring cars, right? So ultimately, those are my 3 faves. If, in fact, you are thinking more Lexus, be sure to check out right there the only 3 Lexus I would buy this year. And if you're interested, the only 3 Lexuses I would avoid this year. Definitely got to check those 2 videos out, because if you're cross shopping, you're going to want to have a look. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon, everybody. Have an absolute lovely, lovely day.